This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to look at the Samsung Galaxy Note 8.0. As you might guess, this is Samsung's latest Note tablet with the pen. It's 8 inches, it runs Android. It's quick, it's nice. We're going to look at it now. So this is the Samsung Galaxy Note 8.0. Beautiful in white, I suppose, if you like white. Actually, I had Note 10.1 in white. I liked it quite well. Yes, it's plastic. Yes, everybody has picked on it for being plastic. That's Samsung. That's what they do when it comes to smartphones and tablets. We're just going to get used to it. Actually, I think it's a pretty nice looking tablet. Though granted, you know, it looks an awful lot like my Note 2 phone, doesn't it? And if we turn it around on the back, clean white surface, slippery. My only complaint, slippery there. Looks a lot like Note 2 phone again. The back on this is not removable. There is a micro SD card slot right here under a little door. Though Samsung doesn't list SDXC cards, it did work with this Note just fine. And instead of the proprietary 30-pin port, we have a micro USB port for charging down here. Awesome. Nice. Easy. Little teeny stereo speakers here. We don't get any front-facing speakers on the bezel like we do with some of Samsung's other tablet products. On this side, IR port, consumer IR. This is for controlling your home theater gear. Volume control and power button above it. Headphone jack up here, 3.5 millimeter standard. This is the US model, Wi-Fi only. This does not make phone calls. You can, of course, use Skype, VoIP applications, voice over IP that is, but this does not have cellular radio. It doesn't do cellular calls. On the front here, we have a hardware clicky kind of home button, back button, and our menu button over here. 1.3 megapixel camera up front, and we have an ambient light sensor so it can set the brightness. Like many Samsung products, it's overzealous. It likes to make things pretty dim and kind of be a little twitchy. I just end up turning it off. Pretty easy to do that. Samsung customizes Android pretty heavily, and some of that's actually good stuff right here. So here's my brightness slider right there, and I can turn on auto brightness on and off. And while I'm at it, access to the Wi-Fi radio, and this has dual band Wi-Fi 802.11bgn. Access to the GPS, yes, real true GPS in here. We have reading mode, which changes the screen illumination and color saturation to be easier on your eyes for reading. Important for an 8-inch size tablet because it really does lend itself to reading. Control for your sound on and off, screen rotation on and off, Bluetooth, power saving mode, blocking mode. That's a very strange way of saying, well, bedtime mode. You can actually set times when it shuts down all your alerts and alarms if you wish. Alarms and alerts are set separately, so you can still have the alarm go off to wake up if you need to, and you can have them come on at a certain time in the morning. Syncing here for a wireless syncing, and multi-window view. Just like the Samsung Galaxy Note 2 and the Note 10.1, we have multi-window feature, and we'll show you that. And you can turn that on and off right there. And if you need access to full settings, and here we are in full settings. Now, this is a 1280 by 800 pixel resolution display. Likely this is a PLS panel. This is not AMOLED or Super AMOLED. And that's not a bad resolution for a tablet this size, to be honest. I know we're all crazed for super high pixel densities these days. It's just fine. But one thing that Samsung always does is they use ginormous fonts, and it makes it look like a lower resolution device than it is. So while we're in settings here, notice we have all sorts of options. Again, our multi-window view. Page buddy mode is context home pages, like you pull the pen out and it can show you pen-related apps. Reading mode, brightness, screen timeout. You can set how long the backlight is here for the little buttons, 1.56 seconds, always on, always off. But in this case, we're going to look at that font size and go with something like small. A little bit more civilized. I'm going to even go with tiny. And then they have something to increase legibility, enhance sharpness of text. I've tried that on and off. I cannot see the difference, honestly, but it will reload the whole screen. If you turn that on, there it goes. And here we are. Is it any sharper? I don't know. But it looks a little bit better now that the font size is a little bit smaller. That helps. Now, this is a tablet with a whole lot of features. You know, Samsung, they love to throw a lot of features on here. We have Android OS 4.1.2 Jelly Bean, heavily skinned by TouchWiz, obviously, here, and lots of settings. Again, here's that blocking mode I was talking about, so you can set when sounds are on and off. If we go back to display, you can see more features like Smart Stay, and you'll see a little eyeball here. That's something we've seen on the Note 2 and the Galaxy Note 10.1, and that means that it occasionally uses the front camera to look at you, and if it sees you there, it won't turn off the screen. Awesome feature. Every phone should have that, and every tablet too. Touch key light duration, battery percentage display if you like that, the multi-window feature, And then we've got more stuff down here. We have power savings. We have integration with Dropbox, which is kind of neat. Really heavily integrated. So once you put in your Dropbox account, actually your music and your videos will be pulled into the players respectively. So, well, that's kind of neat. Right from the cloud, you can do that. So we've got motion features right here. And you can use palm gestures to screen capture and to mute the tablet. We have S Pen right here. AirView means hovering. Now that's something that's been on tablet PCs for years. When you're using a Wacom active pen like we're doing here, it knows when the pen tip is close and not even touching. So if you like that, you can have that turned on. You can have it play a sound when you pull the pen out. You can actually have it monitor whether the pen is in place, and when you pull it out, it's going to automatically launch some pen-friendly applications. You can disable that if you want to use a larger pen. For example, I've got a big old Wacom pen here, tablet PC enabled, and I can just as well use that if I want to as well. And this is the S Pen that comes with the tablet. Kind of a small pen, certainly bigger than the Galaxy Note 2 smartphone's pen because there's more room for a pen silo in here. No eraser tip at the end, clearly, like you might see on a Wacom pen for a tablet PC. We do have a single button over here, and it supports pressure sensitivity, which is nice, and it's very precise. And this has palm rejection as well, so that means you can rest your hand on the screen when you're writing and you're drawing, something you can't do with a capacitive-only tablet like the Nexus 10 or the iPad. In terms of settings, we got plenty of Samsung software on here. We have their All Share Play DLNA. That's DLNA geared towards sharing between Samsung devices. They have a customized version of the calendar, as always, instead of the standard view. My Files, a basic file manager. They have their own video player, their own music player. The video player is handy because it supports more formats than the standard built-in Google video player. So if you're using DivX or something like that, you'll have good luck with that. Google Playbooks, all the standard Google apps are on here as well. We have Polaris Office on here, and this is a version that can actually create MS Office documents as well. That's always great stuff. Samsung's Chat On is on here, and they have a new Note application besides S-Note that we've seen before, which honestly is an okay little application. Text entry has always been a little dorky with the pen, and it gets a little laggy sometimes. Now we have something that's really trying to be like OneNote. Check out fancy stuff right here. All this tabbed organization, all the notes you can create under here. So note-taker heaven right there. Of course, there's a lot of good note-taking applications for pen-based tablets these days and smartphones, thanks to the popularity of Note products. So you can also get stuff on Google Play Store. For example, I've got lecture notes installed right here, and for drawing applications, I have Autodesk Sketchbook Pro installed for tablets with Wacom Pen, and does support pressure sensitivity with the pencil, yes, with the brush. Now we'll take a look at that. Infinite Painter, this is the one for the Note. Pretty awesome art application. In fact, let's take a little look at that right now. So here we are in Infinite Painter, a lot of tools to choose from right here, and we are just going to go with the standard pencil tool right now and start drawing. Now I'll start drawing. Notice I am laying my head on the screen here. Hand, sorry. And that's working just fine. And in terms of line heaviness, light line, pressing heavy, a little lighter, heavier. And then we can switch to other tools like fill that in with our airbrush. So, you digital artists, you'll have fun with this, no doubt. And now for those of you who are note takers rather than artists, here we are in lecture notes, and you can see that I've been writing over here. Works just fine. Again, I am resting my hand on the glass, working perfectly well. And now we're in Awesome Note, which again is, well, I don't know if it's awesome, but it's a pretty cool application. And I can use the on-screen keyboard here, and if I press and hold on the gear, I can choose to use handwriting recognition instead. And that actually works pretty well. So it's neat that you can switch. This sort of reminds me of the old Palm Pilot days, but you can switch to your different input methods down here, just like you can with the Note 2 again and the Note 10.1. So a variety of ways to get things done with this. Galaxy Note 8 is a fast tablet, and you know, it's $399. Yes, it costs more than the 16 gig iPad mini that's $329, but you are getting some pretty good internals here. Quad-core Exynos 1.6 gigahertz CPU, that's the 4412 with Mali 400 graphics. In terms of performance, it's more of a match for the iPad 4 than the iPad mini, honestly, in terms of raw performance. Now, the iPad mini is always a quick and responsive product because Apple really tunes their products well for that. But nonetheless, among Android tablets, more horsepower is always a good thing, and this guy performs better than the Note 10.1. In fact, it even benchmarks faster than the Nexus 10, which is one of the quickest tablets on the block. So fast stuff there. 2 gigs of RAM inside. Again, 16 gigs of storage for the $399 model. You can also get it with 32 gigs of storage for $499. And benchmark numbers are quite good. It scored 7,054 on Quadrant, which is significantly better than the Galaxy Note 10.1 that scored 5,349, and even the Nexus 10 that scored 4,959. So we've got 7054 right here. On to a very big number, 16,214, over 16,000 points right there. GL Benchmark 2.7, the Egypt 2.5 HD test. 18 frames per second on and off screen. That's not bad. It's not super duper exciting there, but it's pretty solid. SunSpider, a quick number, 1,024. And Geekbench 2 was 2,133. Now that's a little bit under the Nexus 10 that scored 2527 on Geekbench 2, but still very good. And in comparison, the iPad mini scored 752, a lot slower. Now the iPad 4 scored 1766, so you get the idea of what kind of performance you're talking about inside. Experientially, despite all of the heavy customization that Samsung does with the UI here, we've got some very heavy widgets like Flipboard running right now. It feels quick, it feels responsive. We have a lot of applications running in the background right now, and you can see everything that's going on right here. It's just insane. And it holds up just fine. It does help that it has 2 gigs of RAM. So in terms of performance, this guy is fast. This is faster than the Nexus 7, which is certainly much more affordable at $199. But beyond performance, because let's face it, most of us who just use these for everyday tasks and some gaming, even the Nexus 7 is pretty fast. This is really for folks who value the pen input. Now this has a consumer AV remote, as I noted, and the IR is on this side, so you're probably going to be using most of your consumer control apps in landscape mode. You get both Peel here and Samsung's Watch On. Now Samsung Watch On actually didn't even know about all the major cable providers in our area, and that's pretty surprising, especially because Samsung's Richardson headquarters is right next door to us. You'd think this area would be covered, but besides that, let's just take a look at the UI. It's very content-centric, and here we have the AV controls. We've already set them up, so I can turn cable box and TV on and off. That's what it's set up to handle. Basic volume, channel, number pad right there, and then we've got TV guide, we've got a timeline, pretty much standard stuff that you're used to seeing there, so it's pretty handy. That's nice. And we've also got Peel on board if you prefer that as well. Nice feature to have, a little value add over most other tablets on the market these days. Samsung includes both the older Internet web browser, as it was labeled, that's the old WebKit web browser, and Chrome on here. Sometimes Jelly Bean tablets, they omit the older Internet browser. Samsung leaves it here because they like to customize their browser. So they give you some custom stuff that you can do right here. The other nice thing about having this as well, good old Adobe Flash. For those of you who want to sideload Adobe Flash, it's no longer included with tablets. That works with the old WebKit web browser, and we tested that out. It worked just fine. It doesn't work with Chrome. Chrome doesn't support Adobe Flash Player, so it's handy to have that just for that reason. And while we're looking at this, we have multi-window mode, just like we have on the Samsung Galaxy Note 2 phone and the Note 10.1 tablet. This little pull-out tab right over here, you can pull that out and use the supported applications right here. The music player, file manager, Polaris Office, the calendar, S-Note, particularly handy if you want to take notes while you're doing other things, Chrome, Chat On, YouTube player, Maps, Gmail, and some other apps like Lecture Notes is actually supported. It's neat to see that here. Then we're just going to pull out S-Note right here. And what you do is you just drag it where you want it to be and see the outlines appearing. Boom. So now I can take a note while I'm looking at a web page. Likewise, if I'm working in an Office document and I want to do a drawing and import it in there, it makes it easy to do that. So that's the cool thing about Samsung Note products, that you can do the side-by-side functionality right here. And now we'll do some size comparisons. Right here we have the Nexus 10 tablet, so you can see the size versus a 10-inch tablet. Nexus 10 is about the same size as the Galaxy Note 10.1, so you get the idea of the size difference right there. Considerable size difference. Certainly for those of you who want something that's more one-handed palmable for note-taking, the Note 8 would be the product. Now that said, I have large hands. I'm almost 6 feet tall, I have big hands, and it's just that's about as much of a stretch as I can manage. You couldn't get any bigger than this and still make it holdable. The iPad mini we'll compare it to next is actually a little bit more holdable because it's a little bit thinner. And now we've got the iPad mini right next to it. Similar footprint, but in terms of width, the Galaxy is a little bit taller though. It's also a little bit thicker, and that makes a difference when you're holding it. Of course, the big difference is the materials here. We have the usual shiny, plasticky Samsung thing going on versus the nice, cool metal background on the iPad. And yes, we will have a smackdown between the iPad mini and the Galaxy Note 8.0. We'll compare it to the Nexus 7 7-inch tablet right here. Not a huge amount of difference there in terms of size. Certainly for people with smaller hands, it's easier to hold the Nexus 7 though because it is narrower. Here we have them side by side, and when it comes to the back material, I give a little extra classy points to the Nexus 7. It has this kind of nice textured soft touch back on it. It feels good versus the glossy plastic. Also more grippy. And lastly, right here we have the Amazon Kindle Fire HD 8.9 inch. Let's be real, let's call that 9 inches. It's pretty close to 9 inches, so just a little bit bigger. But what do you get here? A full HD display. So really nice display, but obviously no pen input and no standard Android. You get a highly customized Android operating system. But in terms of difference in size between the 8.9 or 9 inch tablet and the 8 inch tablet, there is still a noticeable difference right there. And now we're in Samsung's own video player. Again, this one supports more formats and it has a little animated preview, so that's pretty cool. And we're going to check out playback. First, let's talk about the display, though. 1280 by 800 pixels, that's okay by me with an 8-inch display size. Really, videos look just great. Nice screen, good color saturation. You know, a little bit exaggerated. This does have vivid mode. We're not using vivid mode right now. Nice thing about Samsung, though, is they give you a couple of different color renditions to choose from in settings. Sharp looking, certainly for video, nice contrast, rich blacks. We're going to check out a video and see how it looks. And we can hear the speakers too. Right now we're at 50% volume. And you can hear the speakers at 50% volume. Not bad. You know, not the worst thing I've ever heard. Folks have really picked on them a lot. Honestly, there's a lot of expectation here from Samsung tablets because they usually have those front-facing speakers that sound really good. This is just kind of okay. In a video like this, it sounds pretty good. In some games, it can sound thin and tinny, but for an 8-inch tablet, you know, it's not too bad. But the screen, great. Nice, rich blacks there. Great colors, nice contrast. Excellent. If we tap here, wait, haha, we have Samsung's little floating video feature. So here we have our little video playing right up there in the corner, so you can do something else while you're spending time wasting time. That's pretty cool, right? And now for gaming, given the fact that this has a very fast CPU and GPU in here, we're going to try out Real Racing 3. Load times on the game are pretty good. It's noticeably faster than the Transformer line, have slower internal flash storage memory. Some reflections on the cars. I don't see a whole lot of optimization going on for the Exynos by the folks who make Real Racing 3 here, unfortunately. It's not that the tablet can't handle it. We do get rear reflections there, rear view mirror. Plays smooth, good frame rates. Even in the multi-car races, we've seen good frame rates with this. And there it is, Real Racing 3 on the Galaxy Note 8.0. And now we're in Google Play Books, and we've got, well, the DaVinci Code loaded since that was free the other day. And we have reading mode turned on right now, so it is pretty easy on the eyes. One nice thing is it stops the backlight from glaring at you and tiring your eyes out. I think it's a perfectly pleasant reading experience. And now the camera, 5 megapixels, don't get too excited. Now, it's not a horrendous camera, it's just not a really impressive camera. And for $399 in an 8-inch tablet, you like to see the best of the best. Not exactly the best of the best here, but we do have a lot of settings available to us. Samsung is pretty good with that software stuff going on. GPS tagging, self-recording, recording mode, effects, exposure, timer, white balance, outdoor visibility. All sorts of features are here. Now for video recording, only 720p out the back. That's pretty surprising, but hey, Most tablets these days will give you 1080p. And we have a front 1.3 megapixel camera. It does a fine job. It's great for Skype and Google Talk chat. As I mentioned, the battery is sealed inside here. This is not a removable cover, much as it might look like a Galaxy Note 2 phone with a removable back. Battery life has not been the strong point on this tablet, I have to say, especially compared to the iPad mini, which of course does have a lower power CPU. But even compared to our Nexus 7, so far we've been going about 5.5 hours on a charge, maybe 6 hours on a charge, compared to about 10 to 11 on the iPad mini and 7 to 8 on our Nexus 7. So that's the penalty you're going to pay for having a really fast CPU in here, and GPU also for graphics. Battery life is not stunning on this. All in all, there's a lot to like about this tablet, especially if you're an artist or a note taker. It's really just a great size for that kind of thing. It's also super fast, responsive. You get a sense of you're going to be future-proofed here for a while because, well, it is pretty much a cutting-edge CPU in here, 2 gigs of RAM, expandable storage inside, but yes, it is expensive. If you're just looking for an everyday tablet, even one that's pretty darn good at gaming already, the Nexus 7 for $199 is that. With a Tegra 3 CPU, it can do those things. So I would say that this is particularly for you graphic artists out there and you note takers. That's going to be the big selling point of this and why you're going to spend the extra bucks on it. So that's the Samsung Galaxy Note 8.0. It's available now, $399 for the 16 gig. And yes, it is kind of expensive, but for those of you who want that digital pen in a more portable size versus the 10-inch Note, it really is a great size for note-taking and quick sketching. It has its appeal, certainly. Very fast, nice-looking screen. Consumer IR remote for controlling your AV gear. It's got some pretty cool stuff. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Visit our website for the full review, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.